What's up guys, welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about a hidden gem in the Metallica catalog called No Leaf Clover. This song was off the first S&M record, and it was really one of those songs that blew me away when I first heard it. I'm not quite happy with a lot of the information and the tabs out there on the internet, so today we're going to do a full riff by riff breakdown of James Hetfield's parts for this song so that we can get you guys smashing this song out too. Okay guys, so the first thing is that my guitar is tuned to E flat tuning here. So I've basically taken standard tuning and then moved everything down a half step. So E flat for our bottom string, A flat for our fifth string, D flat for our fourth string, G flat for our third string, B flat for our second string, E flat for our top string here. So just make sure you do that because Metallica in the 90s tended to tune a half step down. More for Hetfield's voice than anything. So you can get caught out if you're trying to play against the backing track or against any kind of tab for this one. So let's get stuck in and let's have a look at this first riff. So we have two ways in which we can play this. We can either use a pick or we can finger pick. Hetfield's pretty good at both. There's really not too much of a difference in the sound between the two. But I do believe that Hetfield finger picked live for this, but he might change that up. And then I think with each iteration of this first riff, when it reappears in the song, he changed to using the pick. So we can study it with finger picking to start with. So what we're essentially doing here is we're going to play some little broken up chords on the top three strings. So we're going to start by placing our first finger on the 7th fret of the E string, our second finger on the 8th fret of the second string, and then our third finger on the 9th fret of the third string. Now what we want to do is pluck the top two strings with our first and second finger. And then what you can do is use your thumb to play the bass on this G string. This is sort of breaking a little bit of convention with how finger style is done and how classical players play. They usually use their thumb for the bottom three strings and then allocate a finger each to the top three strings. But we're going to break that just for this song to make it a little easier to learn. So what we do is we play the two top strings together and we put the G as the bass in between. We're going to do this twice. We get this. Then we're going to move our chord to 8 for the first finger, 10 on the second string for the third finger, and then put your second finger on that 9th fret on G for the bass. So again, the same picking pattern, like so. Then we're going to come down, flatten the first finger across the 7th fret on the top two strings, and put your second finger on 8 on the third string. Two of those, and then we're going to go back to our second chord, like so. So when we put this together, the first two bars, now we're going to repeat that, but we're going to add some fills in on the second repetition. So our little fill here is just going to essentially be out of this last chord. We have this hand structure here of using the first and second finger. We're going to hammer on the G string, 8 to 9, so use the third finger, and then use your pinky on 10 on the second string. We're going to do that twice. Okay, now we're going to come back and we're essentially going to do the same thing, but we're just going to change the fills up. So come back to this first one. Now this is our little fill on this third repetition. So after we hit this third chord, we're going to hammer on 8 to 9 on the third string. We're going to hit 10 with our pinky on the second string and go back to that 9th fret on the third string. And then you've got to come up to the top string, do a pull off 10 to 8, and then put your pinky on 10 on the second string. So okay, so a little tricky and a little bit of a workout for the pinky there. We're then going to come back with a slightly different fill. That's just a little bit more simple. All that we do is really take those last two notes, slow them down, and don't put a final 10 on that second string there. So like that. Okay, so this whole clean riff at the start we get that. Now you can alternatively use your pick as well if you're finding the finger picking tricky, but it is a hallmark of James Hetfield's playing. He does do it. So if you're going to use your pick, what I recommend is do a downstroke on these chords on the top 2 strings and then an upstroke on the bass note on the G in between. We get that. So it's really much of a muchness and comes down to personal preference of what you want to tackle and also your own personal playing style. If you like finger picking, fantastic. If you don't and you would prefer to use the pick, then go for it. Okay guys, so let's talk about the first heavy riff. So I've put some distortion on my guitar and it kicks into this second section that sounds like this. Like so, okay? So we've got this kind of little hero fill here, which is like this. We have an open bottom string, then we're gonna hit the 2nd fret on the 5th string, then we're gonna come back to that open bottom string, and we're gonna hit the 3rd fret and then do a pull off from the 2nd fret to the open string. Now you got to choose if you want to dampen the bottom string with palm mutes or not. It's really much of a muchness, and that's how Hetfield typically would play, but I actually find this fill sounds better open after the chord part that gets introduced next. So our chord part next is more rhythmic and percussive. We start with an E, and we have this. So E, chug, chug, E, chug, chug, chug. Like so. Now a chug is a palm muted open bottom note on that bottom string, and our E chords are essentially covering the bottom 3 strings. So we get this, then and then we put that little tail in there, and suddenly we have the main riff from the song. Now all we're going to do at the end is then replace that E chord, shift it up a whole tone to F sharp, and we're just going to put our chugs on that 2nd fret on the bottom string as well. So F sharp, chug, chug, F, chug, 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 and then do our fill exactly as before. So if we put this section together, okay guys, so now let's talk the verse where Het starts singing. So really we kind of take our little fill and we're just going to put some chords in amongst the mix here. So we're going to start with an A power chord, so open 5th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string, then move up to a B power chord, 2nd fret on the 5th string with 4th fret on the 4th string. So now I put the palm mutes in the verse here because I just think after these open chords it adds a little bit more definition, a little bit more flavor, as opposed to what happens on that first riff. So next time we're going to play a C and then a B. A, then B, we're going to go up to C, back to B, and And then on that B, we're gonna hold it for 2 notes. Then we're gonna hit the chord and then follow it by 3 palm mutes on that chord and then our little fill. Okay, and this gives us the first half of our verse. So, I get this. Now our second half of the verse is almost the same. It just changes and builds a little bit more tension up towards the end. So we're gonna go A, B, and then our fill. C, back to B. Now fill again. A, B, this time jump down to G. So 3rd fret on the bottom string, C, and then we're gonna do some chugging between B and C on the 5th string, okay? So you gotta make sure that you're getting really good with those linear moves there across the 2 frets. Get them nice and clean and make sure that you've got nice definition with your palm mutes. Okay, so this gives us the entirety of the verse. And then we're back to the chorus, which is our clean riff that we studied in the intro, but it's simplified a little more without the fills. So I put back on a clean tone here, guys. Our chorus, I would use the pick this time. So it's essentially the same concept as the first riff in the introduction of the song, but I would use the pick this time for it. So make sure you've got a downstroke on those chords and then an upstroke on that bass note that happens on the G in between. Now the second half of it, we're then going to play some open chords. So this is where the lead guitar comes in and the chorus gets a bit more kind of moody, if you like. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with an E flat minor chord. So we want this bad boy. We just want the 2nd fret on the 5th string and the 4th string, and then we want to hit all 6 strings. Now my strumming pattern on this one, so down, down, up, down on this, okay? So like so, and then I'm gonna come to an A flat minor chord, or just, we'll call them A minor, but remember we're in flat tuning. So now when I hit this A minor chord, I hit it with an upstroke because it's on an offbeat. And there's sort of like a scratch in between. So this is the tricky part, is getting this timing right. We get da, 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 rest, da, 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 da. And you just want to try and practice this and get the rhythm. So on the A flat or A minor, it's a little bit more simple. Up, down, up on it. So I get this. Now then I'm going to change to a B flat 7 chord. So we get this kind of honky chord. So 2nd fret on the 5th string, 1st fret on the 4th string with your 1st finger, 2nd fret on the G, open 2nd string, and then pinky on the 2nd fret of the top string. Now it's going to be the same pattern. So you see that I'm using exactly the same strumming pattern on that B, and then I start that A minor again with an upstroke. So this gives me I get this for my chorus, or the second part of the chorus. Now after that it comes back to the verse, and the second verse is basically the second half of the first verse. It's like a shorter verse, if you like, so just be careful with the song structure there. And after that it comes back to the chorus. So the chorus again is the same as that first chorus we've done, but it starts to kick up its tension and lead into the next section of the song. So we now want to look at this post-chorus section. So sounds like this. It's a beautiful little piece of music, actually. So we're going to start with a C chord. Because we're in E flat, it's technically a B chord, but let's just call it a C. And it's the same strumming pattern as we had before. And we're then going to come into that B flat 7 chord we saw in the chorus, down to an E minor, back to that B flat 7 chord. We're then going to go to our C. Then he heads up to a D major chord, and then we're doing our little tension builder from the verse between a B power chord and a C power chord, up and down, up and down. Okay, so we get a really nice section here. And this is, I just think, brilliant songwriting. On a side note, I was so disappointed when Saint Anger came out after this, because this and Minus Human were the last songs that they released just before they dropped Saint Anger, and I was expecting songs like this on Saint Anger, so I was absolutely gutted, because I think that this is an absolute masterpiece, this song, and I really wish we got a full record of stuff like this. Okay, so then we come to the solo. Now, underneath the solo, we're essentially just playing our main kind of chuggy riff. So you need to go back to distortion. Repeats that section, okay? So you know those parts now, you'll be able to put that into the song and into context. And then after the guitar solo, it comes to the breakdown, where we have a nice percussive part that's reflecting what the symphony did at the start of the song, which I think is, again, brilliant songwriting. So we're just going to essentially do some down picking on a palm muted E power chord. And we're going to put some notes at the end of this. So chug, 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 chug. And we're going to hit a G, so just the 3rd fret on the bottom string. We're just going to give it a real slight sassy quarter tone bend, really. And it's one of those ones where we want to kind of hold the note and then put it up towards the end, right? So, okay, don't go too aggressive on that bend in terms of its pitch or its timing, okay? You want to kind of hold on to that. Then, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to change that last note to the 1st fret on the 5th string. Same thing, a little dirty quarter tone bend, okay? Then what we do is we're going to play a double stop as the last kind of chord that we insert in the 3rd measure. Like this. Now be careful not to overhit with these, because they will sound really dirty if you catch a bad string. So we're just playing a double stop across the 3rd fret, and then we're going to hit an E palm muted, then that double stop again. So we get this. And you can put a little kind of dirty bend on that double stop as well if you like. It'll just add to the sass and the attitude. Now we repeat that a bunch of times until we start to put the different chords in the post breakdown on that rhythm. So we get this. So we're gonna hold the E for 2 beats. Chug, 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 A. And then we're going to hit a C and then a B. Then we're going to hold that rhythm on the B, A, and then C, B again. Then we get this. So this post breakdown, it's 4 bars. It goes like this. Then what Hetfield does is he essentially plays the same thing, but he stops palm muting and he kicks into more of the rhythm that he had in the chorus with these chords. So So what he's essentially doing is going between E, A, and B, and he's copying what he was doing in the chorus, but he's putting it into power chords here. So instead of swinging on the whole guitar, you've got to be a little bit more accurate. Okay, so essentially take everything you learned in the chorus and just apply it to some power chords and distortion. Might be a little harder to control the noise, but you got this. Then it's got the part I call it, then it comes to B. So this is where then it comes to B. And he just repeats this part. So what he's doing is he's changing the chords again. He's changing the rhythm a little bit, but don't worry too much about the rhythm. Go by feel with this sort of thing, because that's what Hetfield is doing. So we're gonna go E, B, C, back to B. So you'll see how when I'm playing it, I'm kind of mimicking what I was doing in the chorus anyway. So you can really just take that rhythm and then put it over these chords and you're golden. Okay guys, then it takes a reflection of that breakdown riff. And then just hit an E, let that ring at the end like a rock star, and then you finish the song. Okay guys, so that should give you more than enough to start to put this together. Now, of course, you're gonna have to go and learn it. You're gonna have to piece it all together. You're gonna have to use backing tracks to try and get this up to speed. So if you're struggling with any of that stuff, go and take a look at some of my other videos and my concepts around guitar practice and what you need to focus on to become a better player. And also check out my free 7-day metal guitar boot camp. There's a link to that in the description and probably in the comments below. That is more of an intensive boot camp experience where you can upgrade your guitar chops and really get stuck into some exercises around what you're going to see in metal guitar playing. Okay guys, so enjoy that. I'll put a link to the next video up. Go and watch that and go and kick some on this song.